Hi, everybody, and welcome to EduTALK. EduTALK is a weekly virtual talk show created out of the need for a global learning community focused on topics in education that directly impact Caribbean nations and diaspora nationals working across the globe. EduTALK features teachers, principals, administrators, business leaders, and dignitaries who share their expertise on critical topics facing education today with the common goal of moving education forward and our students upward. I am your host. I'm Dr. Dwayne Dice. I'm the founder and CEO of Education Solutions International.org. Please visit our platform, Education Solutions International.org, for updates and our news, our communication pertaining to forums as well as conferences, and just some simple articles that you can learn something from, either Black history or people of color or anything that is happening around the world pertaining to education. Now, speaking of education, we have our wonderful guest here with us, Miss Jénine Shepherd, and she is a very, very awesome young Jamaican who is making waves in the diaspora, not just in Jamaica, but right across the region. And she is by the way, she's young. I said she's young already, but she's doing a whole lot more than so many older people who are supposed to be lifting their weights. But we're not talking about them now. We're talking to Jénine. She's the board co-chair and the president of Youth for Excellence Limited, and that's a nonprofit she founded when she was only 17 years old. And she's still young, she's not far from 17. And the organization is based in 8 countries, including the US and Jamaica, as well as Guyana, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, and a few others. She's also, she wears quite a few hats, but I'm gonna highlight probably 2 or 3 of them. She's also the founding president of the Jamaican American Youth Excellence, JAYA, and Youth Alliance, Youth Alliance. And it's a nonprofit based in New York, and it's endorsed by the US as well as Jamaican government. And she, in 2020, she was appointed ambassador for the I Believe initiative, and that initiative is under the Governor General of Jamaica, Sir Patrick Allen. So all of these we're going to highlight, but I want to give every one of you just an overview of who Jénine is in terms of the hats that she wears. Well, she's going to share with us who she is. Welcome to EduTALK, Jénine.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dice, for having me on your program today. I'm really honored to be here and be talking with your listeners. I hope that I can share some valuable insights. Really, thanks for having me.
Yes. So let's just dive in. And for those of us who are wondering who Jénine is, the person, your background, and so on, how you become what you have become now, and as I said, making waves. Who is the person who is behind all of this movement?
Wow. I think the person who motivates me the most has definitely been my mother. I can never, ever say that, she hasn't stood by my side. In fact, she has been my biggest cheerleader from jump. And that is something that, sometimes I regretfully take for granted as a young person, especially in teenage rebellion and angst. But for real, there are many days, even when I've been running my NGOs or even in academia, doing my studies, and I feel very discouraged, demotivated, because a lot of what I'm doing hasn't been done by many young people at all. So I face a lot of challenges going out there trying to, create change and, basically do more than what a young person normally does. So a lot of people are uncomfortable by that. And she is often someone who reminds me of, why I started what I started, and reminds me to continue, even on days where I just, Jamaican ways, we can't, but I know.
Yes. So your aunt is the motivator behind your whole development? That's
I would say so. And even, you know, outside of her, I have a firm relationship with God. He is the one who really keeps me grounded and reminds me that, you know, even in the midst of adversities, as a founder, I'm sure that even when you know, started EduTALK or you run your Education Solutions International, it's no easy feat getting that even to like the international level, much less even starting. So being grounded in faith, I know that many people don't really like to talk about their faith, but that is something I take great pride in, and something I just want to highlight, because really and truly it is God who keeps me motivated a lot of the days. And even in terms of my, you know, personal connection to the work that I do, coming up, I would say that, you know, I have been quite privileged. I am privileged in that, you know, my mom and, you know, my family have been able to make a lot of sacrifices to ensure that I would get a quality education. And she always said to me growing up that, you know, when I was born, she had a covenant with God that if she could provide me with nothing else, she'd provide me with a good education. And that has always been something that, you know, has been instilled as a good value in my family, you know, prioritizing learning, prioritizing education, even if it wasn't the typical academia. It would be something vocational, a skill set, something that, you know, you can learn for yourself. And that kind of value that was ingrained in me, coming up and seeing, you know, students who were in the 6th grade and weren't even able to add and subtract, that for me was concerning, because, you know, that was something I took for granted. And when I began to realize, wow, I'm actually quite privileged, because here I am coming to school in the morning, I'm getting a warm meal, I have my uniforms, I'm able to, you know, get my textbooks that I need, I'm able to place in my courses and, you know, do extraordinary well in the region, and even say like get awards in a year for academics. It just was such a disconnect for me that left me feeling extremely unsettled. And I figured, you know, I might not be a Bill Gates, obviously not, but I'm able to do something, right? And that is kind of the whole idea behind why I started up in this whole world of, you know, nation development, or even trying to build out the region, because then I noticed that, you know, as young people especially, a lot of these issues affect us, a lot of these issues are going to affect, you know, the generations that come after us, and it is in our hands to begin to speak up and have our voices amplified as to what we would like to see, because it's really us who are suffering in the coming years.
Yeah, that's very true. You mentioned about the value for education and God and so on. And I grew up exactly just like you, where we valued, you know, grew up not too privileged and so on. I used to go to school with without even lunch at times, but the idea of education and God was always there. It was always the two tenets. I call them the tenets of my development. Where did you grow up in Jamaica? Because you're Jamaican, you grew up in Jamaica. And so let's talk about how you grew up and the school you have gone to, you have attended.
All right, so I grew up my whole life in Kingston, Jamaica. I was born in Kingston, and I started off with a solid foundation at, you know, VAS Prep. I've always given them credit where credit is due. In fact, I spoke at their last graduation ceremony, and they have always been, you know, the institution that has always been behind me and pushed me beyond even, you know, limits that I thought I could have gone past. And so I'll always give them credit. Shout out to VAS Prep if you're ever watching this. And then, you know, after completing my time at VAS, I graduated with like the Principal's Award and then a government scholarship, and I transitioned into Campion College. Right. So at Campion, then I did 15 C6 subjects. I got 14 ones and a 2 in economics. I placed in additional mathematics for the island.
That's very good. That's very impressive.
Thank you. Like I said, academics has been a thing that has been going into me. And then I went into CAPE. I did my 12 CAPE subjects, 6 unit 1, 6 unit 2s, got all ones for those.
Yeah.
And then throughout Campion, I was kind of a cross between academic and non-academic. I've always had a passion for, you know, leadership. So people will call me the girl with the one whole heap of badges.
Yeah.
Around with so many clubs that I was in, or like president of this or president of that, from literally first form, the girl with the one whole heap of badges. You'll see it in the school pictures coming up if I were to show them to you.
Yeah.
So many people to this day still call me that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then when I graduated from Campion, the last thing I did that really stuck with me was this science competition that to this day I take great pride in that. It was the 16 to 19 PCJ competition. And I hope that they really continue that science competition because it's good for, you know, young people who are innovative, for them to have that outlet. We designed a solar water pump that could help to alleviate the water pressure crisis on the 3-story building at Campion. And we won that competition, and you know, we received a couple $1 million for the implementation of our pump as a pilot, and PCJ had wanted to spread that to other schools across the island. And that for me is how I began to, you know, apply some of the principles that I learned in school. And you know, that for me is huge, even in terms of what I would like to see learning move towards in Jamaica, more of that, you know, practical applicability of the physics and, you know, the other stuff that we learn in classes. From Campion then, I moved on to Amherst College, which is rated as the top liberal arts college in the US. And I got in on a full ride of USD $86,000 a year. And that was where I double majored in neuroscience and economics. So even going into Amherst, right, I was always sure that I wanted to do the neuro, because prior to going to Amherst, I had gotten into med school and law school in Jamaica. But then I was advised that, you know, if I really wanted to build up Jamaica, go and get some of the skill sets and the training overseas and come back with those things and train some of our local doctors here.
That's
so
true.
That has always been my my life path. But then, you know, I just took like a different route to get in there, essentially. So that's how I ended up in the States.
Oh, so how far along are you now in Amherst College?
I actually graduated in May of this year. So I have
2022.
Yes.
So you're gonna continue with them to do like the masters and the PhD?
I unfortunately am not able to continue with Amherst since it's only an undergrad. It's a small liberal arts college, right? So I would have to do a master's or PhD program at another university.
Okay. So where are you thinking of? Are you thinking of any of the Ivy League schools? Because you will fit in. The reason I'm saying this, with your credentials, you'll fit in anywhere. Seriously.
I believe so. I think what I'm looking for right now in an institution, when I further my studies, I'm considering several different paths that will line up, you know, one after the other. So I'm looking at an MBA, maybe MD program or an MPP program. I would like to have my medical degree at some point in the future. I'm unsure if I might go the MBA path first or apply to med school first, but I know that both will happen. It's just a matter of the order in which they happen. Because despite my passion for the sciences, I also have a huge passion for entrepreneurship. And I would love for the two to coexist. And a program for me that's an adequate fit is one that allows me to maintain my identity and be myself. A lot of the times what you find with academic programs is that they restrict a huge part of you. So when you go into certain programs, you're only allowed to be a student. You're not allowed to have a life outside of the academia. It's frowned upon if you want to actually do, you know, life-changing work. So when you go in to, say, run an international NGO and you don't have a school with the infrastructure that's built to support that, you don't have a school with incubators that are built in, or lecturers that, you know, guide you towards funding resources or access to networks, it's a huge challenge. So I think for me, any school, whether Ivy League or non-Ivy League, I'm looking for a school that helps me to become the full me, the holistic Jénine that I would love to be, not one version of myself.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And you have a few schools out there that that you can choose from. But that's very good. All right. So now we have, well, my head is swollen because I had no idea you have so many achievements and awards, and the level of academic attainment so far. It's really mind-boggling, and really I feel very proud of you and what you're doing in the region here in the diaspora across. So let's talk about one of your initiatives. So I highlighted some of the initiatives that you have taken part in. I actually founded at the beginning of the program. Let's take them piece at a time. I want to talk about Youth for Excellence Limited. The Youth for Excellence, and you're the co-chair and president for Youth for Excellence. What is that nonprofit and how did it come about? Maybe how did it come about first and what is it?
Okay, so Youth for Excellence, it came about, like you mentioned earlier in the intro, started up when I was around 17, and it initially was supposed to be a volunteer type initiative over the summer with me and a bunch of friends. So it was a bunch of Campionites who came together. We were all doing, SAT prep or studying for CAPE around that same time. And we were looking for, something to do in the summer, some way of giving back. And initially my peers had said something like, oh, they wanted to teach in a classroom. When I looked at that, I began to question what's the value add, especially because a lot of us were sixth formers. I like to be realistic in looking at the fact that you have educators who study for years as to how to, impart knowledge or how to relay information. So I was just thinking, okay, then what can we do that is different from these people who are, being trained for this, than these people who spend their whole lives doing this kind of thing. And so I began to look at the root causes that actually impact a child's learning. It wasn't just the curriculum, it wasn't just the content, but it was more so a child is coming to school hungry, or they cannot see the blackboard because they haven't had their eyes tested, or, their families are struggling at home, so it's bad for morale. So then I crafted this program that would have been a more holistic approach to tackling education. Yes, we would have come in and, done the tutoring, peer tutoring, having a younger person there might help students feel more comfortable asking questions. But then it was also figuring out, okay, we're going to give them meals in the mornings when they come to our programs. We're going to give them comprehensive health checkups. We're going to look at ways to provide their families with career and personal development opportunities. So whether that is, giving parents vocational training or giving them job placement opportunities, what could we do that was different than the other NGOs that were in the education space at the time? And what could we do that would also fill in the gap? So we weren't there to say take over, we were there to complement what was already being done and add a youth perspective as to what we would like to see.
Good. That's very good. And it's in 8 different countries. Are you expanding? Or are you keeping it locked in the Caribbean?
As of right now, I have no further plans to expand. We're in the US right now, outside of the 7 Caribbean territories that I mentioned. St. Lucia has indicated interest in us, bringing our work there. So that would make it 9 countries if we are to go that route. But I would like to focus on the Caribbean. I think that as we talk about, education as an SDG, obviously the Caribbean region is really facing a lot of hindrance, not just in terms of political forces that, prevent certain development from happening, but we have been typically very under-resourced and not much attention has been given in terms of developing the region. I have made it a mission to have these interventions be as homegrown as possible. And I think that as a region, we do need to band together if we do want to see that level of change. So for me, it's a very personal initiative in terms of wanting to see my home grow. I consider the entire Caribbean to be my home. And I would love for us to be truly unified in having this expansion. So it is a very deliberate choice in keeping it in the Caribbean region for now. I think that once we reach to a level that make sense. I might consider other places, but I find it kind of counterintuitive to go to places that already have so many resources allocated to them.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I agree with you. That's what we're doing too with education solutions, to focus on the Caribbean primarily, and then the rest of the world second. All right, so hopefully we'll have St. Lucia on board, and then get the ball rolling with them, because they do need help too. So that's Youths for Excellence Limited, and that's doing a wonderful job. That's like an entire enterprise by itself for one person to run without doing anything else. But you also have another one, another hat, if you will, the founding president of Jamaican American Youth Alliance, JAYA. And that one, I've heard of JAYA before, but we haven't done any work with them from our group, our company. What exactly is JAYA? For those of us still who do not know what JAYA is.
So JAYA actually came around from my work in the diaspora space, specifically the US. As you're well aware, the diaspora population in the US is currently, in the world, is currently 3.5 million Jamaicans in the world. Around 800,000 of those are in the US. And you compare that to the mainland, where you have 2.9 million Jamaicans on the mainland. So it's not a joke when they say if you throw a stone anywhere, you might hit a Jamaican. Right?
That's true.
They're not kidding. Enough like water. That is true.
Yeah, it's true.
So even in terms of how JAYA came to be, that came around after I had been a part of the team that crafted the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council policy for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. And I was approached by other leaders in the diaspora to create this youth organization that was more of a professional network. So we wanted to rope in all of the talent that came out of Jamaica and, went to do careers in the US, whether you are the entrepreneur or you're the doctor, you're the lawyer, you're the engineer, you're the teacher, you're, a congressperson or a senator, whatever it is that you are doing in the US. We wanted to then capture that talent and create a network for development, not just in Jamaica, but development of the diaspora itself, because our very own motto is building Jamaica by building Jamaicans abroad, right? The whole point of that is to say that it is unreasonable to expect people in the diaspora to be able to contribute to national development in Jamaica without ensuring that they themselves are, secure. So that was where JAYA really came in. It's a networking organization. You can swap contacts, you can collaborate on projects, you can ensure that, say you have something going on with EduTALK, we have someone else in the group who's a news reporter for CNN, let's get you on and talk about your program, right? So it's a collaborative effort between Jamaicans who are trying to make life, essentially. But then we give back as well by having a mentorship and advocacy component. So we have in times past, had people in our group provide mentorship to other young people, specifically high schoolers who are coming up, and provide them guidance, as well as college students as to, what they can do, how they got to that point in their careers, how they can replicate that. But then also we have used our power and, status to then say, okay, when the COVID pandemic was happening, we held a talk show called Young People Talk COVID-19. We got the Minister of Agriculture in Jamaica, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. We got CEOs of, private equity companies, persons who run even Grace Kennedy here in the region. We also got people who are pushing for community level change to come on and say to business owners, okay, if you have a business in the US, these are the grants that you can access as a Jamaican. Or if you are a person in the US and you have a business back in Jamaica, how is that business being protected? What is happening for farmers? We also got students to ask, the various diplomats how the Foreign Affairs Ministry was helping them get back home during a time when they were stranded during the pandemic. So these are things that we really use our powers to create space for these people who otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunities to have their concerns heard. That is what we push for. So we leverage essentially the network that we have to create change.
Wow, it's very powerful with the work, you know. Even this alone, not even talking about the first one, which is Youth for Excellence. This is totally a network. JAYA is really doing a wonderful job in the diaspora by itself, you know, to incorporate so many different individuals and organizations to pull together to help not just Jamaicans, but the region. What's the meeting time like, or initiatives? How often do you put on initiatives?
So we put on initiatives on a need basis. So it's very much, we might see certain things come up in the news. Like, for example, even again, the whole pandemic, we have collaborated with other diaspora organizations in Europe to then say, raise money for remuneration flights for Jamaicans who are trapped in Europe. So we pay for them to come back home, right? Or let's say that, you know, a women's center for teen moms is trying to raise money. We'd also collaborate with them, as we have in the past with other diaspora orgs, to make that happen. So it's very much based on a need by need basis, case by case basis. People approach us with different issues. We try to see if we have the resources to do that. If we personally don't have it, we try to point them in the direction of another org that probably better fits the objective that they have. So it's not a specific target. It's just based on what we are able to do, and if we're, you know, in a position to actually create that level of help that they need, because then we don't want to say, oh yes, we're going to do this, and what the help that we're providing isn't meaningful. So we always try to point them in the right direction.
Okay, all right, cool. I want to ask you, you know, how did you come up with the name JAYA, the Jamaican American Youth Alliance?
I'm not quite sure. I think it kind of just happened. Like, the team and I were spitballing what essentially conveys what we're trying to do here. I do know that we were very keen on sending a message, even in the branding, that it wasn't a traditional diaspora organization that solely sought to, you know, develop Jamaica. We were very keen on making it known that the work that we were doing would be predominantly stateside, because again, you can't build Jamaicans at home by not building Jamaicans abroad. So building Jamaicans abroad, like, that's the whole thing, by building Jamaicans abroad. So we wanted to really show that alliance between the two governments in what we were doing. So I think that's kind of how that came about, but it wasn't something more specific than, you know, just really trying to convey that we wanted the two to really show that, you know, it was a collaborative effort between governments, between stakeholders. It wasn't just focused on Jamaica, because a lot of the people that we've worked with in the diaspora have indicated, you know, slight, I wouldn't really say jadedness, but that's kind of how it comes across. Right, because they're expected to develop Jamaica, and people are like, okay, but who's looking out for us here? Because we can't look out for Jamaica if we're not looked after.
Wow. Okay. When I started working with the diaspora a couple of years ago, I never thought of, you know, like, who is looking out for me. I always say, I have enough, you know, I can survive. I'm gonna give back, and I constantly giving back as much as possible. But there's some truth in what they're saying too, because there's work in Jamaica that people in the diaspora can contribute to, and instead of giving the work to a Canadian or an American or a British person, you know, English person, you could find Jamaicans who are actually doing the same work in the diaspora and employ them to do it in Jamaica too. You know, and we're seeing it happening all the time.
And that's what JAYA, for example, is trying to push for,
Yeah.
prioritizing the interests of Jamaica overall, by also prioritizing the interests of the diaspora. If we are able to get those aligned,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
like 2.9 million plus another 3.5 million that you can tap
Yeah.
into. There's so much power in that.
Yes, that's true. And not just remittances, going
Which
back.
make up more than 18% of our GDP, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Yes, indeed. Okay, so how are you feeling? Good?
Feeling great.
Okay, good, good. All right, so I want to ask you, about I'm gonna come back to the I Believe Initiative 2020, but there's something if you go on your website, and by the way, listeners, you can check out JanineShepherd.com. That's her website, her actual name in the website there, .com, JanineShepherd.com, and you will get a wide range of things, and also her entire story there for you to check out and become a part of the programs that is being offered. For CARICOM, you were approached by CARICOM somewhere around in 2020 for the forum, Shaping the New Normal.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that's a big deal in CARICOM, in the Caribbean community, shaping the new normal. What exactly happened there, and what was the effect of that?
Right. So for that conference, I think it took place around 2020, I believe. So it was Shaping the New Normal. That was when the pandemic had a real grip, especially on the region. There was a lot of uncertainty in terms of, where we'd be moving forward. But what we did agree on, especially as young people, was that we wouldn't have returned to the initial state of affairs. So there would be a new normal, just like how you have hedonic adaptation, where people adjust what they're used to based on, that just happens. Like if you lose a leg, for example, you adjust to your circumstance.
Yes.
So in the case of the pandemic, I was approached by CARICOM to essentially put together an event for young people, for them to share what their concerns were around education, around entrepreneurship and employment, around mental health, and just healthcare in general. And that was in partnership with the Smart Caribbean Gathering and the Caribbean Development Foresight Institute. And what that forum sought to do was to hear from young people what are the issues that they were experiencing in those different arenas because of the pandemic, and what are some of the solutions that they would like to see. And participating in that pandemic as well were the key decision makers, the people who held the purse strings at the Organization of American States, people at CARICOM, people at the Caribbean Development Bank, people who, were at even say the World Bank were listening in. And that was because we needed them to then say to their respective leaders that, okay, we're gonna take these recommendations forward and see how we can best implement them. And so the UN also came in and was like, okay, then these are areas that exist for funding that, young people don't even know about. And they were trying to make this whole process a lot more transparent. So that was the whole purpose of that forum. And we had over 5,000 people tune in across 20 different countries, and young people were talking directly to the head honchos of these organizations. When else do you get to sit down and have a conversation with the resident representative for the Northern Caribbean of the UNDP and tell her, hey, this is what I would like to see, and we're having issues with remote learning. How are you helping with that? So them hearing it face to face is an experience that not many young people get.
True. It's very true. It's very, very true. You hit the nail right on the head there. Okay, so my goodness, that's good. So were you thinking about doing another one similar to that? Or was the idea shared to continue?
We were thinking of continuing it, yes. I do know that for the other international youth days that have happened, we have collaborated, well, I personally have collaborated with the UN on a few things. Like we held the Crime Prevention Summit with them for the last International Youth Day that took place. So we didn't do the same shaping the new normal conversation. But we have continued to do work on International Youth Day. We just haven't continued that same brand per se. But there are plans to continue it. There has been demand for it, so we might bring it back.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's very good because a lot of my interaction with people in the diaspora, in the Caribbean, as well as the Americas, they really want people to tap into their, it's like a what do you call that? Walk a mile in your shoes. It's empathy and just having that connection with people outside of their own country or island they can talk to and interact with, and let them know that, hey, we hear you, we're seeing you, we're going through the same thing with you. They feel very happy with the connection. And once your emotional juice is starting to flow, you might feel better about your circumstances and start to become creative again. So I think it's really, really needed. Speaking of needed, you are also a part of personal and community development. And that is why I think, because of your charisma and your character, you became the ambassador for I Believe, which is an initiative in 2020 under the Governor General, Sir Patrick Allen. And I think the pillars, when I went through your profile on your, by the way, guys, I'm saying it again, if you want to know more about Jénine, go to JénineShepherd.com. All of this you can learn and more. It's a ton of information and resources on there, JénineShepherd.com. So the pillars, I want to highlight this before I turn over to you. The pillars are family, youth, and education, which is what it's like right synonymous with you throughout your life so far. What is this I Believe initiative 2020 under the Governor General, for those of us who are still wondering? Because it sounds really cool. So like, sadly, we're talking about R. Kelly, I believe, with what is happening with him. But the message is real. I believe I can fly. I believe in myself. I believe. So what is this?
So initially, essentially, the whole I Believe initiative by the GG, he starts off by saying, I believe that there is nothing that is wrong with Jamaica that cannot be fixed by what is right with Jamaica. Yeah. So that is the whole premise of the I Believe initiative. It is a way to galvanize young people who are creating change in their communities, or creating change even on a nationwide level or even a regional level, for them to come together and for them to share resources to say that, this is how we can collaborate on meeting this SDG. So if I have someone else who's trying to do, say, quality education in the chat, for example, we have a whole chat of these I Believe leaders, and we share ideas all the time, collaborate all the time. Someone might be like, hey, I heard that you're on like Youth for Excellence. My NGO is trying to do something like this. Can we, collaborate? Can we sit down and talk about this idea? And you can then even say, go back to the GG's office and try to gain the support of the office as to how to carry out your initiative, whether that is through, them promoting the initiative to, gain the support of more donors through more visibility, or them trying to even put funding behind it in some cases, or adding legitimacy or credibility towards the work that we are doing. So as an I Believe ambassador, you do have a mandate for a certain number of projects that you're expected to complete. Of course, a lot of us surpass that because we've been doing it regardless. Yeah. But it just offers us a larger platform to get the work done, and it offers us more support by way of for some nonprofit leaders or even community leaders who need that level of corporate backing that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten. By them being a part of this program, they're able to gain the support of not just his office, but also the support of other people who are doing that work. So it's really a collaborative space where young people are able to come together in Jamaica and, see the nation develop.
Okay, really, really cool. I love it because it's based in your personal growth first. You tap into your personal first, and then afterwards, of course, community and everything else follow around that. So I really love that little phrase, I believe, first. It's really cool. I really enjoy our conversation. I want to ask you to pertaining to back to academics. Okay, and we're winding down now. We have a few more minutes before we close. When you look at the Jamaican education system, right, and you came up right through the system all the way to what is it? Almost college, high school, and you finish your A levels, and then you went straight into school here in America.
Right.
If you compare the two, of course you have done it. In general, what do you see that you like between the two of them, the education systems?
Okay, so in terms of Jamaica's schooling system, something that I have really loved about the programs here, again, some people might have me up for saying this, but I really love the prioritization of God in schooling. I love how every morning at Campion we would have assembly.
Yeah.
You weren't forced to participate in it, but I felt that it was a time where people could come together and there was a gathering. We could, it was grounding for a child, you know, it instills in you certain principles and values, even if, you know, those values aren't uniquely Christian, it still gives some level of guidance that you can follow a blueprint of sorts, right? So I'm not saying that, you know, good morals are uniquely Christian. Do not come for me on that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, right. What I'm saying is that having these values, though, is very, it's very useful for a person because it gives you a clear path that you're supposed to go on. It gives you structure to your life. So that is something that I have been very grateful in. And a lot of the stuff that I've learned, even from prep school days coming up, were from, you know, all those years back then. Like, you know, an honest labor bears a lovely face. That's my school motto from Vast Prep. And a lot of the Bible verses that I've learned, like, it encouraged you to have integrity in everything that you're doing. And even now, for the life of me, if somebody asks me something and I feel like I'm being tempted to lie, I would just rather not answer the question. You know what I mean? So it's just like certain principles have been deeply instilled in you. But as it relates to the system itself, something that I really love and really hate at the same time, I love the focus that it gives you in terms of career-wise, because, you know, you come out of sixth form and, you know, in my case, like I said, I was accepted into med and law school, and I could have gone those paths, like if I had chosen to. And, you know, I would have been a doctor by, what is it, like 5 years, maybe 23, 24. I'm 24 now, right? And compared to the US, where it would take you, like, I don't know, you finish your bachelor's, that's 4 years, and then you do another 4 years in medical school, that's what, 8 years. And then if you want to specialize, that's a couple other years. So call it 12, 15 years before you're done with the whole process. So that is one thing that I respect, but at the same time, it is an issue because there isn't much space for people to explore or much space for people to really find themselves in the whole training system that exists. So that is something I would love to see more room being created for that. But I also understand that the priorities of the different nations are probably what causes that.
It's true.
So those are the main differences for me. But even in terms of, you know, the learning approaches, the pedagogy, I would love to see more investment being placed into actually integrating technology in education. The pandemic for us has exposed a lot of gaps and inefficiencies. And what was happening was that while the rest of the world, especially developed nations, were able to quickly move their infrastructure online, we were struggling to just do online classes. I'm not talking even about technology in education. I'm just talking about online classes, right? So we were kind of in like a crisis mode where teachers were struggling to say even hold classes over Zoom. We're not even talking about the point where people are even using VR headsets in classes and actually, you know, teaching through that. That is a vision I would love to see for the region, but we're nowhere there yet, because even when you talk about internet penetration rates, how can you talk about technology education when so many people don't even have internet, right?
Oh
So
my God. Yeah.
those are
It's stressful.
some issues that I could go
Yeah.
off about, but that's kind of
Yeah.
where I would like to see us heading.
I'm gonna in Education Solutions International. I'm gonna get you on to partner with you with some conferences to our forum, because I think we can help each other with this, because we have the same objective to get rid of some of the problems that we have, to find solutions for them. But mobilizing people, not just solving the problems, but mobilizing them to solve their own problems. And I think with the collaboration, I think we can reach further in helping people to solve their problem by mobilizing them and changing their mindset. Because I see the infrastructure is not there. The infrastructure, even if it's there, it's so minimal.
So
And
poorly developed.
yeah, it's mind-boggling, the way that things are right now, given that technology has been around for a long time, and the countries on a whole struggling to make ends meet when it comes on to a simple thing, where I'm calling it a simple thing now because it's everywhere for a long time. Internet, you know. I just came back from Dubai last week, and the infrastructure and so on. And I know Dubai is a new country, but the infrastructure is there, and the way that the mindset of the people it's to get them to move in a way that tomorrow you're constantly thinking about tomorrow already. So you won't make a mistake of saying that I'm just gonna do this for today. Everything is in relation to the future. It's really mind-boggling the way they think and the way we think in the West too, where we get a little thing and we just keep it for ourselves just for today to survive. But they're thinking about tomorrow already. They're planning for the next 20 years already. And I think it's really fascinating. It's good if we can take that approach to training and development in education, because it's fluid, it's constantly changing. So I see your point there, making total sense with the region, and getting people to be mobilized and move and change and make the solutions possible to fix the problems. So thank you so much for sharing. And I want to also say to our viewers, because I have another question I want to ask you to close off. But for viewers, the links to all of this will be on our website, Education Solutions International. You can go on there, and we're going to put the link for JénineShepherd.com will be on our website as well. So you can click on it and go over to our website, as well as Youth for Excellence Limited and JAYA, also links will be on there too. You can check it out, everything on there, for you to just dive in. Don't get drowned in the information, but swim through it like a fish. Okay. All right. To clear this up, where do you see all of this going in your estimation? Because as a visionary person like yourself, a visionary, you're planning your next step, and you don't have to share anything you don't want to share, because sometimes it's best if you keep some things to yourself until they come to pass. But in general, what are your hopes and your aspirations for not just your nonprofits, but for the region?
For the region, let me start first with nonprofits.
Yeah.
I hope to get to a point where my NGO isn't needed at all. Because the whole reason why I'm even needed is because there is some, gap, right?
Yeah.
And I would hope for that to be closed up. NGOs only exist when governments are inefficient for whatever reason, right? And historically, we have been set up to fail as a region. We have been gravely exploited. Even in terms of the development of the education infrastructure, if you look back at the history, it wasn't meant to be anything concrete. It was only, we were set up, the whole point of colonization is to just extract,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not
Yep.
meant to develop the countries that they were in. And you can look at countries that have historically been colonized. You'll see this trend. It doesn't matter if they're colonized by the French, like in the case of like Haiti,
Mm-hmm.
or the British and Spanish, like in the case of Jamaica, or even the Dutch or Portuguese, wherever you want to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at where countries have been colonized and you will see the same weak infrastructure that was left behind by the colonizers. And now it's just for us to basically pick up ourselves and figure out how it is that we are to advance while also facing a lot of global political pressures, because then we are now being told that the same things that they were allowed to do for over a centuries even,
Mm-hmm.
when we try to do it now, we're told, oh, but that's not allowed, when that was the path that they took to development. So
Yeah.
we really have our work cut out for us. And I am optimistic in hoping that there will be a point where our work will not be needed. And I hope it's a positive case where, you know, all the work that needed to be done has been done, and not a case where we have faced extinction, God forbid.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I hope for in terms of the nonprofit. I hope for our work to spread all across the region, to every territory. I hope for our work to be extremely impactful and meaningful. I want it to be long-lasting, tangible change. And then eventually spreading across the world in terms of what we're able to accomplish, and actually pulling governments together, and, you know, guarding against their own selfish interests.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Go on.
that's what I hope for in terms of the nonprofit. In terms of what I hope for personally, I hope for many things, you know. I hope to have several businesses, not just in the NGO realm, that are able to even say support my philanthropy even more. As you know, it takes cash to care.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
it would be good to have like other means of income that I can then pour into the work that I'm genuinely passionate about. I hope to eventually move into the environment conservation space. That's something I have been passionate about for a while, but I have focused on education. That's where I started. I figure it is best to build out the work in education for now, establish credibility in that arena in the nonprofit space before I essentially dip my hand into another pot, learn about a new arena. But I do support environmental groups in, you know, ways that I can, outside of like, you know, having my own thing. But I hope for Youth for Excellence itself to go beyond education and, you know, touch onto other issues like I said, especially environmental issues, because that is something that is impacting us here and the now. But I have focused on education because it is such a powerful tool. It intersects everything, literally everything. Even if you're talking about poverty alleviation, what's a great way for social mobility? Getting an education. You're talking about quality jobs and employment. How do you get that? Quality education. You're talking even about food security. How do you get that? You have to train farmers on hydroponics, aquaculture, the right farming techniques, education, right? And even research has indicated now that, you know, programs that can train students on proper agriculture literature from as young as the elementary level could be very key in terms of producing the next generation of farmers. And I'm so passionate even about agriculture education. That's a program that we're looking to launch in 2022, by the way. I think I've spoken to you about it before. Collaborating with the 7 countries. Why is that important? Well, food security is a huge issue. You know, the FAO has said that, you know, by 2030, far cry from their zero hunger mandate, they're going to see 660 million people face hunger in 2030.
Yep,
like,
I believe that.
No joke.
Yeah.
And if you look at food security stats in 2021 alone, right, in terms of the 700 plus million people who face hunger, you had 282 million from Africa, right? And then you had another 60.8 million from the Caribbean and Latin America, another 480 million from the Asian continent. And when you look at the 60.8 million from Latin America and the Caribbean, that is so significant because
Yeah.
that region only makes up 8.38% of the world population.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we're so heavily dependent on tourism as a
Yeah.
region. 24.5% of our GDP is tourism.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
We need more sustainable modes of development. And how does that come? Education. We need to be educated even about environmental conservation and preservation. It can do so much.
Yeah.
So much.
And the thing is, within the Caribbean, if you drop a seed behind you, accidentally it grows if you drop it. So there's no excuse that they can't invest in agriculture. There was a news article that came out recently with the development bank in the Caribbean Development Bank, that says that only 3 Caribbean nations provide more than 50% of their food supply in the Caribbean, and Jamaica is not one of them. It is Haiti. Funny enough, Haiti, Belize, and another one, can't remember what it is now, but they're the only ones producing food, 50% or more of their food. And I'm thinking the first country that should be on that is Jamaica, because we have fertile soil everywhere across Jamaica. Is fertile land. So there's no way we shouldn't be producing food.
Not even just that, but we need more unity as a region if we are expected to compete at the global level. This is why even for the agriculture education program, I was so insistent on it being a regional initiative and inviting all of these agriculture ministers and education ministers to the table to create this program that can truly be used across the region. So it's not even a Jamaica-centric program, but it's a way for us to say, okay, we need to put our differences aside, whatever historical differences have come up, because realistically, we're all the same, just that the slave ship dropped us off at different spots.
True.
Different spots. So we need that unity. We cannot stay divided if it is that we are to achieve these different SDGs. So that is why I'm really, really pushing for this regional unity and for us to come together and be like, okay, how can we then produce together, whether it is different government offering up lands to even say other Caribbean nationals, if that's the case, and having it at different rates and say like some other foreign investor coming in. But these are topics that we need to be having because it's going to really impact us as a region. We have no chance, unless we stand together.
Yeah, it's very true. Very, very true. All right, on that note, we have to close off. Sad but true. But there is hope because we have each other and we can collaborate still in the region. So that's a positive right here. Jénine, how can I thank you? Thank you so much for coming on, for being a part of EduTALK. Everyone, EduTALK is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Jamaica time. Next week, we're going to have another program similar to this one. And we want to say thank you so much to Jénine to take time. I know she's very busy to take a few, maybe an hour off of her time throughout the day to be with us and to share her expertise with us. Different initiatives as well that she's so much a part of. Wonderful individual. Thank you so much for being with us, and we will talk soon. We'll very much keep in touch. Okay.
Thank you for having me. And viewers, have an amazing day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you viewers for coming on and being on and supporting all of this. Thank you. All right. Talk soon. Bye-bye. Bye everybody.